And you're right, I'm wrong. I don't know about race cars.
Hey, welcome to Turn 4 Talks. I'm Nate, this is Pop. Nice to see you this weekend as always, and it's been a fun one, obviously, as usual. But, so where do you want to start off? I guess with the trucks would be the simplest.
Oh, trucks, yeah, that's got you to St. Pete. I gotta tell you, what a great idea to mix both those shows together.
Yeah, honestly, growing up as a Floridian, I'm kind of sad that I moved out of the state because this is more anecdotal for me personally, but that was one of those races I always wished would happen. And, of course it happens in a year that I can't make it, but it was such a cool show to watch. And from the beginning to the end, it held me on the seat. I was on the edge of my seat for sure. Who stuck out to you the most for the weekend?
Impressed with Mozak. That was awesome. I guess Kyle Busch warmed that truck up over there for him, which was impressive. But he was banging off the walls. He was on it in the beginning for sure. A few others.
Yeah. The two that stuck out to me and probably most everybody else it was really cool to have IndyCar drivers James Hinchcliffe. I loved his name rail over the top too. And Dario Franchitti, who hasn't really raced much in the recent while. He's done a few IMSA runs and a few things like Goodwood and such. But for the most part, he retired in 2013 from full-time racing, and it was such a joy to see him back out on the track. And neither of them did bad. I gotta say, they ended up bumping each other and running around. And Franchitti cost Hinch a few spots. But that was such a cool thing to watch, just to have some mix and match. And those guys definitely knew that track, and it's what probably kept them up front most of the way. So
I agree with that completely. You got to remember we had Andretti and Franchitti, whatever you want to call him. The girls love saying his name. And definitely you got Hinchcliffe in there. So that was definitely impressive when they mixed the talents.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, obviously Andretti did the race last week, but just to and I mentioned that in the previous video, but just to have another Andretti running in the sport, it's such a neat thing, and that's such a big namesake. I mean, having an Andretti in any motorsport, it's a icon of a name.
You got Mario is there, in support. So, that's like bringing Jordan to the track in a way. I mean, it's an Andretti, so you gotta love that. But,
yeah, and on the names list that we've talked about often here, I gotta say the Dodge crew is still yet to impress, especially Mini-Me. I mean, I know, I keep smack talking the guy, but for somebody who won the reality series against a bunch of great name drivers who have a lot of accolades, he's yet to prove himself. He took himself out and ended up sitting on pit road for a while, trying to do repairs. You wonder when the team starts to look around and go, what do we do? What do we sign? And maybe even give him the boot. It's race 3, so I'll slow my roll, but, eventually push will come to shove, I feel like, if he can't start producing.
Yo, Minnie, give us a call. Obviously you did really good on the selling the pitch side. So we could do some interviews, get your side of the story, but, crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, jokingly, I hate to say it, but he did really well, and one of the things where he got most of the points besides racing in that show, was earning the interview points and being one of the best interviewees. You're not getting interviewed at 36 in the Truck Series. I'm sorry. Win or lose, I guess lose, but still, it's kind of been tough. So, hey, I dial back there again, but it's obviously, and then Haley for the Dodge team has been carrying the boot, and it's only a matter of time, I feel like, before Butterbean McQueen starts kind of starting to reel it off. Taking a step up from the ARCA series is probably something, but that as a whole, I feel like Dodge has not met my standards. Lane Riggs, alternatively, has shown that, some of the few Ford development drivers that do exist are solid. We saw a similar path through Zane Smith, who stuck on that same truck for years and honestly proved himself, and then he's made it up to the Cup Series, and that won't lack or show any lacking. But I mean, maybe Lane Riggs will be a name we see in a future series one of these days.
And to touch on both points, with definitely Front Row Motorsports, I mean, they've been showing there at the front of the leaderboard. Those guys got a couple of weeks off. Surprising thing, I was doing some reading, and the manufacturer came into to college racing and basically took all their sim information. That was all proprietary information, so they're working from a clean sim. And it was leaked that I guess when they were all in the sim on the TV show, that was, and then I think that sent the red flag up to the manufacturer, who we won't say who that is, but we all know who it is. But so something they're working against there, but definitely hope they do better. And
I mean, I mentioned that with the Clash episode. I mean, AJ going off of having no actual Chevy support showing up. I mean, again, you saw it this weekend. I know it's a road course, whereas he aces it, but we'll get to the Cup Series a little later. But AJ Allmendinger has kind of shown that, at least he's a veteran driver who can work through not having much data. But it's got to be hard for a lot of these younger guys and or this team as a whole. So
experience,
yeah,
for sure.
Any other last thoughts about the Truck Series here, or?
I'm a Lane Riggs fan, so you gotta say I love that. But it was definitely interesting, the mix up at that track. Watching them shake it at the end, the fuel mileage, they didn't really get much into it. I wish they would have did some more interviews on the Indy guys. They really didn't spend much time, getting them in there. I think people wanted to see that, but I guess they decide who they're interviewing. So
I found it interesting because I heard somewhere that the IndyCar guys were mentioning how the difference of having the Goodyear rubber laid down on the track changed some of the dynamic for them. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to think because they obviously run a completely different tire branding. So then you bring into this, and now you're laying down a completely different set of rubber. And obviously, you'd think rubber is rubber, but at the same time, there's a reason there was the Tire Wars back in the day. It's not the same series, but the trucks also, even taking away tire branding, the trucks must definitely, because of the weight, leave a little more rubber through the corner. I mean, that looked grooved up in a few of the corners compared to IndyCar just has that typical, just light little grooving, which isn't a bad thing, but yeah.
And further to push towards the Phoenix race, I think, with them running the Firestones in IndyCar, you had the ARCA series running the Hoosier General Tire, or whatever you want to call them, and Goodyear. So that, interesting with that horsepower, how that tire wear shows up if there's no rain. So
yeah, and that'd be a fun doubleheader. Speaking of doubleheaders, the other half of the CoTA weekend here was the O'Reilly series over at CoTA. I think the storyline that sticks out probably to me and most people was Corey Day continues his cannonball bowling ball through the field, trying to fast track his way back to dirt as quick as he can. And a rumor is that Rick Hendrick himself had to sit him down finally this week, and we all know how that goes with people with Chastain. But poor Connor Zilic, at least in that race, we'll get to the other one, but Zilic probably had one of the few cars that could get to SVG and keep pace. I mean, it's you almost feel bad for Zilic. He's just been trying to light the world on fire and not had much luck.
Well, and to say about Corey Day, look, Hendrick just doesn't, pick people out of the grandstand, and, they have a lot of resources there. They have a lot of, experienced people that are going to teach him, and he's going to start absorbing that. So, just to pull in a driver and just to say, funny to say that they didn't pull someone out of the grandstand. Obviously, they pulled Matt Schneider out of the pit, so what do I know?
And I touched on it a minute ago, but SVG showed some of that road course dominance that he has become known for. And, it's one of those things we'll look back in years to come and just, it's impressive what he can do in a car. And it doesn't matter. Everyone gave him the Chicago road race win for the first one because, it was a car he knew. But he stepped into the Xfinity O'Reilly series and has been able to put pedal to the metal and show that man can just wheel a car around the corners. The other person, interestingly, that I've harped on harshly this year is Austin Hill. But he made me eat my words this year and actually ran pretty dang good on a road course, which I feel like is out of his playbook. But, he's, at least proving some of the doubters and some of the sense.
You know, sticking out to me is Carson Kvapil because, here he is in a different car and he's performing. I mean, the guy that got his car got beat up by day. But I'm really curious to see how he's the underdog for me in the O'Reilly series this year, and a fan of his as well. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think Quapple definitely has proved that the talent's there. I think there was a little bit of question somewhere because Junior Motorsports is such a powerhouse team, and if you don't run well there, and he did run well, but you start wondering if it's the cars or him, and he's shown in the DGM car this past weekend that he really can wheel and deal.
Nate feels like his little brother is definitely the future talent there over in the car store. He showed a little promise there, but not to get sidetracked. But
yeah, I definitely think, and they're both very talented, but his younger brother is, and again, this is prospect shooting in the future, but I think his younger brother is slightly better of a driver, is a little less aggressive and a little more just solid at certain
smooth,
things.
you're saying?
But, yeah, smooth is probably the word I was looking for. But all in all, I think both of them are very talented, Carson and his brother. So we'll see how it goes. Speaking of young, talented drivers, it's really impressive to see Brent Cruz, who led a ton of laps in that race. I think it was 18, so it won't be a ton, but it's a good chunk of the race. And my favorite stat about that is he's the first driver since Casey Atwood to lead laps as a younger than 18-year-old driver, or as many laps, or something along those lines. But and Casey Atwood does a lot of probably never got a fair shake in things, but that's a name you hadn't heard in a while. When you start wondering back and looking, and it was Brent Cruz might be a name we start hearing more and more as he continues to work his way up the bubble. But that was pretty much some of the neat observations I had for the weekend.
Yeah, that's a good standout. I didn't catch that, but that's definitely we're waiting for that 11 truck to come to the front. I know they definitely put a lot of pressure on him there last year with Heim. So I think he would have had two by now if it was Heim. I don't know. Shouldn't say that.
Hey, I've mentioned it several times. Time is a real thing, and once he secures a full-time ride somewhere, I'll be back to seeing him running up front every weekend. I mean, we'll see, but that leading back, I guess that brings us over to the Cup Series with guys who have been running very well, despite being young. I already mentioned him once, but poor Connor Zilic, and I know that's a storyline a lot of people have heard through the week, but it's interesting to see him have driven up front from the back once, get turned around, go all the way to the back, run up to the front pretty much again, work the pit strategy in his cycle, and then get dumped, and then one more time drive himself back up to 15th. And that is one of those days that at the end of it, you're not going to look on the scoreboard and nobody remembers who finished in second place or who lost the Super Bowl type conversation. But, that 15th place is way more impressive than I think anybody can give anyone credit for. He probably had, and this is coulda, shoulda, woulda, but he probably had the only car that I think could have really given Reddick a shot. I mean, SVG gave a good wheel and deal, and obviously had him there through the S's, Reddick that is, but he just couldn't get him through that final corner or two, and the horsepower showed and the straight line speed on the 45. But all in all, I think if Zilic doesn't get turned around on that restart coming back from fourth, maybe it's a different story. And I guess, again, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but
in conversations we had going back, you go check out that video of him on YouTube in car camera. I mean, he was passing people. I mean, he definitely told people they were number one along the way, but you could definitely see he drove that car. And the talent's there. There's no doubt about it. And it's a new discipline for him too. You've seen him work his way up there. You you wanted to see him battle at the front, but Denny was like, I didn't want to be that guy, and then later on he was like, oh man, I was that guy. So there you go. At least he admitted it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to be the guy, you got to beat the guy, and Reddick has shown that he's that guy. I said it last week that the 2 was impressive, and I won't be a hater for somebody who can win a bunch because we all love to be, but it's very quickly wearing on the season. You're like, all right, I don't think he's gonna win at Phoenix, but yeah, I probably could have said the same thing about CoTA last week, and I'm impressed. Dude just wheeled it back and forth for somebody who didn't have a win last year to now have 3. I'd say tripled that. But that's not good math.
Well, we've been all seen, us diehards, like the Burgermeister, like you had that feeling like he was baiting him, like he was trying to make him overrun the car, like you felt like it, and I was just waiting for that 97 to pounce. There's a couple of times through the corner on the straightaways, you just watch that 45 just get up and go and distance. So I don't know if he was, that smooth through the corners or he just had some horsepower under the hood. But, Brian Scott and that 45 team, man, they're on fire, and momentum and their swagger is definitely got them rolling.
Anyone who wasn't a big name talking point stick out to you for the weekend, in all? Or
you watch TV and you get a little twisted because, like, Chase went down pit row right after finishing 8th in stage 1, and you think the way they make it sound on TV like there was a problem with the car, but obviously he's like, fix it now, we got time. And they made some changes. I think later on, he saved the day with, when he saw Watermelon Man lose his tire, and he made a great call. He made that pit call himself, and it definitely helped him propel. You miss stories like that. I know they were focusing on the front. There's no doubt about it. There was a couple other fast cars in that, like Blaney. Like, I thought Blaney had a shot, but I don't know that last pit stop if they changed something. And
yeah, and I feel like they didn't go down for that final restart. They stuck out, and he chose the outside, which I think by that point he had just burnt everything off on those tires that he had left, and that's why he ended up falling back a few spots. Ended up falling around where McDowell was running, which, again, I have to give credit where credit's due. McDowell and his crew chief had some really crazy strategies this year in terms of fuel and staying out. And he made it work. He finished, 6th or 7th? And after running ahead, and he knew he wasn't going to win this one the way there might have been a chance at Daytona if it stuck green. But I think all in all, I am just blown away by his just resilience. That's the key word here.
If you didn't say it, I was, because that was definitely at one point you were like, huh? What? Where'd he come from? What? And, and for where he was running, it was impressive, definitely. That's a good call, Nate. Definitely.
Yeah. On the both impressive and less impressive side, I gotta say it was funny to see Kyle Busch get angry, because we all know angry Kyle Busch is the best Kyle Busch, especially on the track. But man, it's funny to watch his teammate piss him off because he wasn't having a great day. And I mean, it looked like Love was just bumping into every single person throughout the day and just trying to fight. And I don't blame the kid; he's trying to make a name for himself. But it's bad when Kyle came on the radio with the air on the race and says, "You see what he's been doing for the last 5 laps? He earned it." And you're laughing because it's just like, all right, this is the duality of RCR racing at this point.
Yeah, and who took the brunt of that was Buescher too. Like, that was like, he was an angry elf, and he was like, time to go. And I guess you're gonna teach a rookie.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much the lessons to be learned. The other driver storyline that I think was pretty neat, and you mentioned it earlier, but it was really cool seeing the driver switch when it came to Bowman getting sick. and I hope it was announced recently he's dealing with some vertigo issues, and I wouldn't wish that on many people because that is not a fun thing to deal with. It just continues to come in waves. But so speedy recovery for you, Alex Bowman. But
Especially in a contract year, man, you know that's got to be. He's sitting at home tweaking. Heard he ran some laps in a passenger car at whatever that is, 110 Speedway or whatever that is there in Concord. So yeah, they tried, but get well soon, man.
yeah, and if anyone had Myatt Snyder driving any point in a Cup Series car this year, let alone a Hendrick car, on your bingo list, kudos to you because that was out of the blue, very well deserved, and I loved hearing. I don't know if you heard this, but NASCAR actually pretty much fast tracked his Cup Series license process because he didn't have a Cup license, but because he had enough experience and is just in the garage area and he's not a nobody, NASCAR pretty much expedited and said, we'll temporarily approve you having a Cup Series license. So good for him. It must have been fun to be sitting in the garage as a pit reporter and helping Caitlin Vincey, I think.
Yeah. If you're a race car driver, that's why you keep your suit and your shoes and your helmet in the trunk of your car. Like, I mean, he was ready to go.
You almost, the thing I think the most about that is you almost feel bad because NASCAR had to approve the seat fittings, and they didn't change any of the thing, but they had to sit there for an extra minute or two in the garage area just to make sure that he properly fit in the car and things along those lines. But it was a bummer to watch him running a lap down, 2 laps down at the end there, because I don't think he would have lit the world on fire, but it would have been neat to see if he could actually gain a spot or two. And I didn't actually catch, obviously, because as you mentioned, they were so focused on that 2-car battle for the lead towards the end. But I'm curious how that car actually ran, and if he was quick or slow. And all things considered, though, good for him. It was neat to see, and we'll see how Alfredo does in that same ride this upcoming weekend at Phoenix.
So late in the show, like you didn't really get a chance to see what he did. You just another number on the list there, but crazy.
Yeah, I guess that brings us to Phoenix, which is obviously coming up very shortly. It's gonna be neat. It'll be fun to be at the first proper short track full race for the Cup Series in O'Reilly this year. It'll kind of bring some leveling out, I feel like. We'll see a different group of drivers come up to the front in both series. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yo, it's a race so nice. They do it twice. I just gotta say.
Yeah, Phoenix is definitely, I feel, got a lot of hard time and hate because it just became a very boring finale race. But I think the track is definitely awesome and should get a little more credit, especially now that there's no Kevin Harvick dominance of going there and going, oh, it's Kevin's race. But I'm curious to see how the weekend plays out. I'm curious to see how the Indy cars do there as well. I think it'll be a fun little mix of things, and all in all, it'll be some good racing, I hope.
Yeah, that extra horsepower, these guys are going to be conserving on the tires. It was something you heard a little bit about last weekend, but, on this track, we're going to kind of see that, some of those guys that came up in the late models and things like that have to conserve and make things happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is at CoTA, there was a pre-race interview where Christopher Bell pretty much mentioned that the lap times were the same at the track despite the more horsepower because they were having to compensate in other areas for now having more speed going through some of the corners. But I think this, with the short track package, is going to be one of the first times we actually get to see the full extra 750. And as much as it was great and all, wherever you stand on that, but Bowman Gray is not the measuring stick of what we're getting with this 750 horsepower package. So, I think there's some looking forward to this weekend. And while I don't think it's going to be Reddick's week 4 in a row, at this point, I'll bite my lip because you never know.
Any given Sunday, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he is having the year he is having, then you can't count him out. I am curious to see, as some of the drivers we mentioned, at this point, McDowell and Zilich's weird fortunes through the year, does it keep playing out? And does anybody else come out of the blue that we haven't really been talking about so far?
Spire cars are just like, you've seen it in the last three. We know Free Spin's had a little bit of a problem there, but they've been really, I know Suarez has been cruising along kind of slow. Don't know what happened to the Fords. It just seemed a little lackluster with the Fords. I mean, Blaney, I know what the road course, but where was the rest of the group? But we all know Penske has good history at Phoenix.
Yeah, I think definitely we'll continue to see how the manufacturers go, because obviously Toyota's been on a hot streak, at least 23XI, but they had all 3 cars in the top 15. But yeah, any closing thoughts about either this weekend or the previous weekend going up?
Just excited, man. I'm excited for this 2026 season. I think NASCAR's given us a lot of good stuff. It's great to see history change, and just loving every weekend.
That's exactly all you can do, and I think we've mentioned it multiple times here. Like, win or lose, whether your driver had a good weekend or a bad weekend, or whether you liked who won or didn't, it's racing, and it's another good weekend of racing coming up. It's always fun just to sit back on the couch. Hopefully everyone gets a chance to watch it live. And if you don't even, it's still nice. Just this is all the sport we love and care about. So it's going to be fun. And let's see how the season keeps playing out. I think the points system is definitely changing how things are going to work out. And I'm here for it. I'm full support of everything going on. So, yeah. Thanks for...
Yeah, and I got to say, not everyone can watch a TV. I listen to my phone, and I'm listening to the broadcast. It's on the radio. Catch it where you can. We all know the wives won't let us watch racing all weekend. We got the honey-do list, but from that, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to Turn 4 Talks. We always appreciate your views and likes and listens. Make sure to hit subscribe.
Smash that like, smash that subscribe, man. Send us some questions, nothing too crazy. We're always here. We love ideas, and I really hope you're enjoying this show from us. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. Till next time.
Take care.